Well, welcome to the July meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District. We're coming off of a meeting, so sorry for the late start, but we already met with the Board of Directors to hear the budget proposal, and so now it's time for our meeting. We can start with our introductions. My name is Rhonda Cox, Chair. And
Paul White, Vice Chair.
John Arnold, Secretary.
Lauren Kopp, member.
Lily Kleinlein, member.
Tom McGlasson, District Director.
All right, I think that's everybody. I had wanted to start doing this a while ago, but we haven't had a lot on the agenda or have missed meetings and that kind of thing, but just to have approval of the agenda. So it would be something that we would have a motion and a second just to make sure, and this would be an opportunity to add agenda items if you didn't already by email. So as you look at the agenda, would anybody like to make a motion to approve it, or does anyone have any additions to the agenda before we move forward?
I have well, I don't know if it's an addition to the agenda, but I heard some exciting news today. I think it's next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Rumpke is having a groundbreaking for our methane recovery. If anybody would like to join.
Let me add that on there and you can tell us, oh, I'm in a.
I can email everybody with the information once I get.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, do you want to do that? Follow up by email?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Sounds like it has the potential to be an explosive situation.
All right.
It's going to be really cool. I'm so excited for it.
Is there a motion to approve this month's agenda?
I will move that we approve the agenda.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, and moving on to our minutes. We actually don't really, we won't have official minutes for our last month's meeting, 2 months ago, the May meeting, because it was not technically an official meeting because of being announced a little late with the Zoom link. So it'll be a memorandum that'll come out later. So I don't even think that we'll need to vote on those, but we still have a backlog of minutes. So if you've been able to approve or review the January, November, or the November and then January meeting minutes, now would be the time. If you had any changes or concerns, or if you wanted to make a motion to approve them. And as you can see, they're down below if you scroll down.
I read them earlier. I make a motion to approve the November and January minutes as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. What's that? Oh, might have been a little bit of a delay on that one. But anyway, so the meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. And Tom, I didn't know if you had.
I just said walking to the house. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's all right. Tom, did you have an update for us today? I wasn't sure.
Well, a few things. I mean, I guess the exciting thing, when I wish Ryan was in attendance here, but hopefully, I've been talking with him and Andrea the past week, and we're getting ready to expand the food waste collection to our other rural recycling centers. The plan is to set it up at the Ellettsville facility next, and we're hopeful that'll happen here before the end of the month. and then by the end of August, have it available at least at all 4 rural recycling facilities. We're still waiting on item approval to do that at the South Walnut facility. Don't have any indication that they're not going to approve it, but with everything going on, their review process has slowed down, and we just don't have that yet. So, but we are getting that moving, and do plan to get the food waste collection expanded to the other facilities as soon as we can. So, one bit of good news in all of it. Yeah. Otherwise, you know, we're dealing with COVID. We're still on an abbreviated schedule at the recycling centers. Elisa's she's working hard with the teachers and the administration offices for MCCSC and RBB, trying to figure out, you know, how we can continue to incorporate our education programs in the schools with all the changes with, you know, online schooling and hybrid schooling, and just not sure what's going to happen with that at this point.
I have a question, Tom. Regarding that, so in the spring when we were first dealing with the pandemic, was she able to switch to do some Zoom presentations with any students, or was that too much of a scramble with teachers trying to figure out how to manage their classrooms?
We did not. Well, I don't. It's not really something that was pursued. I mean, yeah, there was the teachers were all scrambling and flying by the seat of their pants. And she's also had to make some adjustments to some of the programs to have them set up to run virtually if that's what we have to do. So she wasn't necessarily prepared at that time to offer everything virtually.
Okay, yeah, it would be a huge jump. I was curious if anything had happened, but yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, I'm sure, to get ready for that.
So, yeah, so we're plugging away and trying to move forward as best we can, and unfortunately, particularly with education and outreach, you know, a lot of that is dependent on what schools are doing, or what businesses and other community groups that we've traditionally worked with in the past are doing, and how people are moving themselves forward. But we're making the efforts that we can to make our programs available in whatever format they need to be able to continue to offer them as we have in the past. That's about all that I have right now. So.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Tom relating to the district in general? And we'll get to the budget eventually, but. Okay, I guess not. All right, so something that we would normally do in our January meeting, but that we weren't able to do in January. Let's see, that was our composting presentation, and then we didn't have a March meeting due to the pandemic, and then our last meeting was not an official meeting, so we couldn't vote. So now in July, it's time to elect our officers, as we do every year. The positions are chair, vice chair, and secretary. So is anybody interested in, or would anybody like to nominate someone, or would anyone like to express interest in themselves becoming an officer? Any thoughts?
I will continue as vice chair if the people want me.
Do we just nominate Nelson since he's not here and vote him in?
Absolutely. I want Nelson to be the secretary. No.
Just teasing.
Yeah.
Well, and I too am definitely happy to continue as chair if you'd like, but if anybody is interested, I'm happy to let someone else take the reins, and I would still continue as a member and be happy to. So either option works for me.
Same with me.
I would be interested, but I feel like I'm not capable just yet. So if anybody would like to, kind of mentor me throughout the next year, if, they're thinking that they would want to evacuate position, after next year, I'd be willing to learn.
Oh, that's great. Is there a particular position that interests you? Or
No,
any of them?
I always want to be more involved, but I always feel like, what am I doing? So,
The best way to learn is teach.
well, I don't even know how I would teach it without knowing.
Well, we'll definitely,
See, I believe there's the other adage of sink or swim.
there's that. Learning by doing. Well, no, I appreciate that, Lauren. So that's definitely good to know. So that, if someone wants a rest next year, and then can have you step in. Be great. All right. So would anyone like to make a motion?
If everybody's cool with staying in their current positions, I motion everybody staying in their current positions.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
All right. Okay. And we'll, any comments before we call the vote? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry, I didn't do a roll call vote. I forgot when you're doing things on Zoom, you're supposed to. Do we have any nays? All right, I think we're good. Okay, well, so then we will continue. I mean, we're already halfway through the year, might as well, right? So we'll see what happens next year. So now on to the budget. That's our big item for the day. So we saw the presentation, and John, I know you weren't able to make it for the first part, but hopefully you saw the documents that Tom passed on to us. That had
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I guess we could start with, are there any questions? Any questions for Tom specifically?
I think I asked him all of mine in the last meeting, so.
John, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. I guess, should we summarize just like kind of the main things that we talked about in the last meeting that would be helpful for John? I mean, one thing we talked about was the staff cutting, where the controller and the office manager will be switching to reduced hours and pay that goes along with that. And then for was it just the rural sites, Tom, or is it all sites, all drop-off sites? Where we have the
Just the rural sites in this budget's proposal.
Okay. For the rural sites, they're gonna stick with, well, we're on 4 days now because of all the changes with the pandemic, right? But the plan is would be to go with 4 days still in the next year. And so that would be decreased hours for those staff, correct?
I'm sorry, say it again.
There'll be decreased hours for those staff as well then.
Well, yeah, it's the way that it's set up in the proposal, because with the sites open 5 days a week, we currently have 4 employees that work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the sites, and 4 employees that work Friday and Saturday at the sites. So the idea, in order to maintain benefit eligibility for everybody, is the guys that currently work Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday would go down to 2 days a week. And then, so then you have 8 employees that work 23 hours a week at the site, which under our benefit policy allows them to maintain benefit eligibility.
Thanks, Tom. And then any other major points that anyone would like to let John know about?
Okay. So
I
basically,
was curious on what does the controller do?
Pays me.
Pays you, and it takes 30 hours a week to pay you?
No, in addition to payroll, I mean, you notice looking through the budget, we have a number of non-tax revenue sources. And
Yeah.
well, that requires invoicing and receipting, and so that does a lot of that stuff. There's also a number of financial reporting requirements as a government entity that we're required to complete for the state, and as well as producing all of the financial reports, for the board every month.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, well, it sounds almost like an office manager, but then you've got an office manager here too, so.
I tell you what everybody else does. At some point, you guys are going to wonder what I do.
You mean you actually do something? You actually do something?
Don't tell anybody.
I think that the budget thing is pretty time consuming.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it is.
I can't imagine.
It is.
John, did you have any questions?
so we have a balanced budget then? It sounds like they're cutting hours to try and reduce expenses, which is in the right direction, because of course there's not as much volume right now because of the pandemic. So
Yeah, I mean, that's
but it's going to be
the
balanced.
goal that was given to staff was to produce a balanced budget for 2021. So you can see it's about a $1,512 surplus is the bottom line on this that we came out with. But yeah, the cuts were an effort to get to that point, and it's in order to cut costs, you've got to cut staff, you've got to cut programs, you got to cut services, and that's where we wound up. So.
Do you think that if what was being discussed earlier about in 2024, the losing revenue and so on, that we would potentially have to cut even more drastically if nothing improves?
I mean, the way things are trending at this point, yeah, but optimistically, you hope that at some point the recycling markets turn around and we could again start generating revenue off of recyclables, to offset some of that loss. But the host, like I said at the previous meeting, the host fee is budgeted at $250,000 of revenue. That's what we have budgeted annually for a number of years. That's been a solid, consistent number for us. Sometimes it's a little more than that, sometimes it's a little less than that, but it's been consistently around that range. So that's, you're looking at a loss of $250,000 in revenue with the host fee going away. Don't know what's going to happen with property tax growth quotients, beyond this year. I imagine the impact from the coronavirus will be felt for a number of years. Yeah, it's going to hurt to absorb that.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I guess we could start to, we're always supposed to give our statement to the board. after hearing the budget. So does anyone have anything that they'd like to say to the board about the budget? The proposed budget? We have offered a letter of support. Sometimes it's just been we support the proposed budget as is basically, or sometimes like last year, I remember we made a comment relating to the wage increase. I have that.
I mean, just to clarify for the members, the statutory requirement is just to provide written comments to the board. They do not have to be in support of. They don't have to be in opposition to.
Yeah.
And so it's your comments, based on the information that's been provided to you and discussed with you, and you make the comments that you see fit that can be as generic as you want or as specific as attacking specific line items in the budget. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, we could even say we have heard and understand the proposed budget. Sincerely. But yeah, last year, I think it was, we made the statement that if enough expenses could be cut to negate the deficit, we'd be happy to support the $13 minimum wage adjustment. So that was our statement from last year. Does anybody, I guess depends on, do we have concerns with the budget that we'd like to raise here?
Well, if we have a balanced budget, we ought to say something. We support having, we support that. The fact that the budget was balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Or no deficit, I should say, because.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody to the board?
Well, I think the budget looks fairly well in line with at least the hopes of what we're trying to do. We've got some increases, we've got some decreases. It's going to be a tough thing, I think, to come up with a budget that's going to please everyone. I would really personally like to see a balanced budget. Because we can't operate deficits all the time.
I would just.
Lily, I saw you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. It was mentioned in the meeting with the board that some of the members were looking for kind of a revised version that perhaps could cut a little bit of the staff cuts. And so, as I just think it's a very difficult time, but I'm not sure that I would want to say that I fully support it just because it's balanced. If there were minor adjustments that may come in the month ahead to help save a few of the hours. But it sounds like that may not be kind of known in time for us to give our board statement, what those are.
Yeah.
That's right. And John.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to tell John just that the question had been asked, what would our deficit be if we didn't make the staffing changes? And if I remember correctly, Tom was at like $71,000.
Well, if we made no staffing changes, doing the 2.5% increase and raising the minimum rate to 14, I was 71,251 deficit.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also there was the question, if we made the changes in the administrative office, but not those changes at the rural sites, was it 39,000?
31,643 would be
I
the
was way off.
deficit.
Okay.
Well, you hate to see anyone have their hours cut, but still overall, if you don't have a balanced budget, it eventually ends up with a lot of debt and you're in the hole, and then you're worse off than, before. And so it's important for all governments to have a balanced budget and to address it and come up with that in some way. So it's good that that's what is happening.
So, I mean, what if we made a statement that's somewhere along the lines of, we appreciate that you won't be operating at a deficit, but if the board can find ways to avoid cutting staff hours and pay, we would certainly support that. Or, I mean, who wouldn't, right? But would we want to say something like that?
Sure. Yeah, I think that we should. Yeah.
Lily, does that sound like something that you feel comfortable with, or
Yes.
what?
Yeah, I was wondering, Tom, I might have missed it in last meeting, and I know that last year our push was in raising the wage, but was there an option where you had a wage freeze but didn't lose hours? Was that mentioned at all? Or is that not an option?
To stay at $13?
Yeah, just a wage freeze.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or less than the full dollar.
That was not mentioned at the meeting. And you're looking at it.
I mean, it may be the case that works out worse for the majority of staff, but I just wasn't sure how that would play out for people.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I do not have those numbers, and a wage freeze. Off the top of my head, I want to say a wage freeze would actually result in a reduction because 2020 is a 27 payday year, and 2021 will only be 26 paydays. So, I'm looking at my sheets now, and I don't know. I can tell you what it would be based on a 27 payday year, but 2021 is not a 27 payday year. So, it's a good question. I will calculate that, and I will certainly provide that to the executive committee at the next meeting as an option they can consider.
Well, we can also add that into our comment. Just say we would also recommend exploring a wage freeze.
I would be in agreement with that.
Okay. So do we want to say we appreciate the district's commitment to operate at a no deficit budget?
Yes.
If I'm not using proper budget terms,
Sort of.
let me know.
We appreciate the district's efforts in being fiscally responsible.
Let's see. How about we appreciate the district's commitment to fiscal responsibility by operating at a no deficit budget. Is that the right way to say it or not?
Balanced
You
budget.
can say,
Well, yeah, what you should say is operating with a balanced budget.
Thank you. I knew there was an accounting way to say it.
yes.
And so next we would say we would like to recommend that the board explore a possible wage freeze rather than, what is it, cutting hours, or what do we want to, how do we want to word it? How's it worded in the budget? I need to find.
Maybe you could say we would recommend that the board compare, oh, hold on 1 second. Of course,
Sure.
like, you can
Prepare-
randomly
To prepare a comparison of freezing wages and continuing hours of service
yeah,
as opposed to raising wages and cutting hours of service, which seems to be almost
Compare.
neutral.
yeah, because I'm not sure that I would support immediately freezing wages, but just kind of comparing them is what might be
Yes,
helpful.
Explore
yes.
possible wage freeze. Okay. To compare. Okay, we'd like to recommend that the board explore a possible wage freeze and compare that with the currently proposed budget.
Yes.
Or am I leaving something out? Sorry.
A wage freeze while maintaining staff hours.
Thank you.
Yes. And if there's more work to be done, since we're maintaining hours, they can do it, right, Tom?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can always get more work done. I'll just make them work overtime.
Okay, I'm gonna read this back to you and tell me if there's anything I need to change. Actually, I think I should just be able to share that with you instead of what I'm currently sharing. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can see it.
I can't see it at all.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I forgot about that, Paul. Sorry. We appreciate I'll go ahead and read it. We appreciate the district's commitment to fiscal responsibility by operating with a balanced budget. Sorry, that should be balanced with a B, right?
Yeah, 1E. Right,
would-
yeah, balance. Yeah, right.
We would like to recommend that the board explore a possible wage freeze while maintaining staff hours and to compare that with the current proposed budget. Anything else? Or would you like me to reword it in any way?
I like it.
I think it sounds okay. I notice I'm a little bit more agreeable this year than I was last year. What does that mean?
Okay, so well, last year's was a pretty significant change, I think. So I think there was a lot of conversation.
Yeah. Because
All
I
right.
did write my own. I did write my own and send it in last year as well. So.
Ah, that's right. And that is always an option. That's something to remember. I think anyone is welcome to provide comment to the board separately. But just if you
Yeah.
do that, just make sure that you sign that.
Individually, not as.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we can go ahead and if no one has anything to add, does anyone have anything to add to this? Then we can, I could entertain a motion so that we can approve this. And then what I would do is I'll go ahead and just, put the dear and the respectfully and all that and sign it as your representative. And I will send that on to the board, so.
And I'll so move, Rondi.
Tom, did you have something you needed to add?
Yeah, just make sure when you put a heading or whatever on there that somewhere it makes reference to, the RE 2021, post operating budget or something to that effect.
Sure. Okay.
Specify what the comment relates to.
Thanks. Okay. And I'll probably before I actually send it off to the board, I'll share it with you guys just in case there's anything you need to point out.
And you're welcome to send it to the board members directly, but please also send it to me because I will include it in the packet for the next board meeting.
Will do.
Attached
Thanks.
with the budget stuff.
Great. All right, Paul, I think you were about to say.
I said, I so move.
Second? Anyone? Lauren, second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Anyone? Okay.
Nelson's opposed. We'll speak for him. How's that?
Okay, well, motion still carries, so we're good. All right.
I finally put words in Nelson's mouth.
Well, thank you. So I will get that cleaned up and we'll send it to you first. Like
Okay.
I said, just quick turnaround though, if you have any comments or not to change, the meaning behind what we're saying, but if you catch a spelling error or something funny in there, just let me know. So catch that though. But all right. Well, I don't believe we have any members of the public here, right?
I don't see any, except my wife, and she's not interested in what's going on right at the moment.
Okay. All right.
Smart woman.
Well, our next meeting is in September. It may be similar format to this, that we'll be meeting by Zoom again. Who knows what will happen, but I will definitely keep you updated. But that's our tentatively scheduled next meeting. So.
Could I just say, Tom, I've been to the South Walnut facilities a few times during this stressful, closure, hours difference, and I think you guys are running it really well. The blocked off parking spaces, the limited cars, it seems like it's running really smoothly from the user standpoint.
Good.
I agree 100%. I just went on Saturday and I was totally at ease there. And I've been very careful and don't really go too many places right now. And so I was a little concerned, to be honest, when I was going. I didn't know what it'd be like, but it was very comfortable and felt safe.
Oh, good. It's good to hear. I appreciate that. And I hope your wait wasn't too long. I know
It wasn't.
depending on what time you show up, it can be, but good to hear. And I just wish more people wore masks when they came. We can't control that.
No, luckily when I was there, everybody was wearing a mask. So I thought that was great.
Then you weren't there when I was.
Oh, okay.
I drove by the Bethel Lane facility yesterday a couple of times, and from what I could see, there weren't any problems going on in there either.
Oh, good.
That's great news. All right. Well, shall we adjourn?
We have completed all of our agenda items, so I will move adjournment.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Tom.